Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday, January 1, and I'm making this brief video for those of you who won't have an opportunity, perhaps, to join us. We had some folks last night, and we're having another session tonight. But I wanted to make this video to make sure that we're all clear about course expectations, and this should also help you to get started. To quote Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I like to begin with the end in mind. So with that in mind, I'm going to take you on a brief explanation of what you're going to need to do to be successful in this course. So let's go in here. Let's go in here and have a look at this. Okay, this is the home page for your course, and actually I'm in the wrong section. Okay, so let's go back out of here. I need to go down here to here we go. I'm sorry. Apologies. So let's go in here and look at the home page of your course. Okay. I did post these, but I don't know if these links are working or not in the announcements. So, at any rate, this is the home page of your course, and for our purposes today, I'm going to view the course just as you would see it, as if I'm a student. Okay. All right. So, how to navigate the course? The first thing you want to do is go in here and go up to learning modules, right? These two elements are key. We'll talk about this in a moment. So I'll go to the learning module here, okay? And it gives you, you want to read through these learning modules step by step, okay? And as you do, okay, I want you to please review, and this is kind of front loading for the class, preparing for the class. Please review the discussion rubrics. This is how you're graded. All right. So let's click on this first discussion rubric. Okay. And it's taking its time. Okay, very good. So, this is how you're graded. These are the elements. Notice down here, okay, it says using proper citation methods where applicable with no errors in citations. What does that mean? Okay. All right. We'll talk about that in a moment. But for every assignment that you do, and here's the worksheet, and here's how the worksheet is graded, okay, just to look at module 1, okay. Okay, and then finally there's a final project review, and we'll get to that in a moment. But there are 3 types of assignments that you're going to do in this class. The first is a discussion. The second is called a worksheet. And the third are milestones / final project, because those are all in one big kind of pile. That third type of assignment. So let's go through each of those in turn. Okay, and talk about the expectations for each of them. We'll start with a discussion. Okay, here's our discussion topic for today. And what you're going to do is, I'm going to go down and respond to these. You go into every discussion and you answer the question. You address the following, okay? So it's going to ask you to write a paragraph. So, please read these carefully. Now, one thing that you're expected to do is, and this is called an initial post when you respond to this. Okay. You write the initial post. Then you respond to 2 of your classmates. You have to do this to get full value, or you get a 0, for engagement, which is one of the things. Let's look at the rubric and look at the elements on the rubric, and we'll talk about these. See, engagement, with clarifying explanation, relevant and meaningful response post. So you get an initial post. That's where you answer the question. And then you submit it on time, and then relevant and meaningful response posts. And then you have to edit your post. You can't just kind of free write. We'll talk a little bit about writing here in a second. But if you do these at the minimum, you're going to have a good experience. Okay. So you respond to at least 2 classmates. Okay. You need to use okay. So what are the expectations for writing and responding in a discussion post? Well, basically, and we'll go back to the home page now. You need to write your initial, you address whatever the topic is. Please provide a reference or a citation for basically your initial discussion post. Now, how do you do that? We're going to come back to the citation here. You go to your home page and you click APA style. And it's going to tell you, how, you need to review this, because what happens a lot of times is people they just kind of write their opinion extemporaneously, or how they feel. This is not the point of this, okay? So for the discussion, you need to provide, even if you're just using your textbook as a reference for the initial discussion post, that's fine. I'm not expecting you to go out and research 5 or 6 different, sources, although if you wish. Now, you don't have to reference your responses to the classmate, right? To your classmates. And you need to respond to 2 classmates. You just read what they say, think about it, and write. I think y'all are doing a good job of that. If you do this, and there are discussions in 6 out of our 8 weeks or modules that we have together, you're going to be in good shape. Please know that you need the expectation is that you address the initial topic in your post by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. and that you respond to 2 classmates by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. If you have any concerns or doubts, or there's confusion about when stuff is due, you just go up to the learning modules. It'll tell you when they're due, and then you can also go over to the tools and go to calendar, and the calendar will tell you when stuff is due. Right? Module 1 begins, and then let's see if I go down to the next week here, which is next week. Assignment due, module 1. Okay, so you've got 2 assignments that are due for module 1, and it'll tell you here right here in the calendar when stuff is due. Now, the second kind of assignment that you have, right? Okay, is to go over here. Let's go back now. I go to course menu. Go to learning modules, click down here, and that'll take you right down here. It'll take you down to a sociological observation. Now, because of the pandemic, many of you might do this from your car, you'll do it remotely, or you'll observe your whatever pod you're living in at home. That's fine. Some of us are able to go out. Like, for example, in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I live, and I'm getting ready to go out and do this, I can go to the park and stay, hundreds of feet away from anybody else if I want to, and observe I could go observe people at the dog park, for example, if I wanted to, right? But again, what you need to do is when you write this, let's look at worksheet guidelines and rubric for a moment. Again, this is your second kind of assignment. So you write the place. Now, articulation, okay. Again, please use a citation. You need a citation for every worksheet that you do. Okay? You need to, this is kind of about being present, okay? And they even have a clickable link that takes you back to the worksheet, okay? So for this assignment, I mean, have a reference, but it's perfectly okay if you just go down here and you cut and paste that and use it as a reference. That's not plagiarism. That's not copying, right? That's letting me know that you've read the textbook, right? And that you're grounding your observation in the textbook. Now, we have a nice form there. You can just drop that reference for this particular assignment at the end. But the expectation is you use a reference for everything that you do. Okay? For discussions now, and then worksheets. That's the second kind of type of assignment that you have. Okay? And again, if you have any questions about that, you go up here and you go to Citing Your Sources Guide. Go to APA. All right? Another thing you can have, we have, sometimes if you are having challenges, and this is a craft. What is a craft? A craft is a series of techniques that you bring together, for fluency in a subject. For example, if I wanted to be a good, carpenter, I would practice, a trim carpenter, a cabinet maker, I would practice, right? For writing, it's a craft too. And what you need to do is, if I give you a suggestion, perhaps you're comparatively new to the experience here. If I tell you to go to this online writing center, please, do so, and maybe book a session with them. Some of us might be useful. Others of us have a little more experience in this game. It's all about experience, but you need to use an APA, that's American Psychological Association, reference style. Okay? So, for every worksheet, and again, it can be as straightforward as the text. You're going to need to use more references when we get into our third type of assignment. But I mean, for the worksheet, you're going to indicate to me, and please include the page numbers that you've read. That includes to me that you've read and engaged the material. Okay? So let's look at our third, and we'll come back to that when I talk a little bit about writing here. Let's see here. That's not where I want to go. Let's go back now to our first module again. Notice at the bottom, there's something called Final Project Review. I want to spend a couple of minutes here and talk about this Final Project Review, okay? This is the guidelines and rubrics. Okay, so if you review the course, and please take some time, don't just dip in and dive in and start barreling through the course material, or else, you'll get lost. In modules 2, 4, and 5, we have what are called milestones. Okay? That is exactly what they are. Your project, you have 3 milestones and a final project. This is a research paper, okay? And you have a chance to build it. But I want to take a few moments here and really go over what we're talking about here, what this means. Okay? So 2, 4, and 5 are the milestones, and the concept map and paper you bring together in Module 7. Here are the sorts of cultural beliefs and biases. We're going to talk about what culture is here in a couple of modules. Explain the influence that shapes the creation of roles in the third module and we'll do a worksheet on these. You explore what a role and a status is. You draw connections between social inequalities and human behavior. And in, I think, our 5th and 6th module, we'll talk about social stratification, social inequality. Okay. And you're going to look at social change and what the situation is like now. Now, I want to be clear about something here, right? You are examining a social process here, right? This isn't a reaction paper about how you feel about violence or racism. These things are terrible. But you can't write me a paper about how you feel about violence and expect to succeed. This is a research project. So each of these modules, Module 2 is Milestone 1, Module 4 is Milestone 2, and Module 5, you bring them all together, are leading up to the final paper. Okay, let me talk for a minute about what a prompt is, because I'm a little concerned sometimes about the way this is set up. A prompt is merely to get you thinking about a subject. If you try to write me a paper about crime and violence or drug and alcohol abuse, I will bounce it back to you and go, be specific. You haven't been specific enough, and you'll get not a great grade, So what do you have to do to use these prompts, okay, to identify a topic? Don't write me a paper about drug and alcohol abuse. You could get a bachelor's degree in drug and alcohol abuse counseling, right? So what do we do with these? Okay, and it's not clear, but I'm going to make this clear for you. Right? It's not clear in your in this what you need to do. You need to go down here way to the end. And by consider, I mean seriously consider, as in do this, please. Okay, go down to the supporting resource list. Do that. Don't just consider it. That language is kind of, that's nice, but okay. Okay, so I want you to strongly do this, okay? I want you to strongly go down and look at the supporting links. And if you start to write me a paper about how bullying is very bad, that doesn't really tell me anything. I mean, I don't think, bullying is good, or that racism is a scourge across history. Well, that doesn't really tell us anything. I mean, W.E.B. Du Bois wrote 27 plus books on race as a social structure alone, even though we tend only to read one of his writings. So you're not going to get the job done, trying to do that in a paper. So what to do? Narrow your focus. So here are the subtopics. Pick a subtopic. School bullying, or cyberbullying, or workplace bullying. And then you could go down to these elements down here, and you've got like 4 sources. So let's look at crime and violence. I would please identify it as violent crime. I don't know, crime and violence sounds like the title of a novel or something from the 19th century. Okay? So, here, okay, so we have you pick a topic here. Gang-related crime, white-collar crime, hate crime, okay? Okay, so you got to do that. Another thing that people do is try to write me an entire paper on drug and alcohol abuse. And if you do this for a topic, again, I will bounce it back to you. So, what are addiction, marijuana legalization, prescription drug abuse. We have a whole host of things here. Okay. So here, an income inequality and wealth distribution, here is a breakdown here. But I'd like to take you for a moment and show you, okay, so each of these milestones, one kind of you state your topic. Please be specific. Be specific. I'm going to take you back now and show you a student. Here I'm gonna click over to me for a minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna click over to me and move me over so that you don't. So we can. Here we go. All right, that's not gonna do. Okay, let's try. Okay, so gosh, all right. I'm gonna pause the video now and get you an example. Okay, we're back. I've picked a paper from last semester. Stephanie Meyerson. Notice she submitted, when you submit, this is the final paper, and I'm just going to show you what a final paper looks like. A really excellent final paper, okay? The concept map is like a PowerPoint presentation that you would do were you presenting this in front of a class, or we have academic conferences where people present material. That's what a concept map should be. Think about it like that if you need to get your mind around it. But I'm going to go up here and and then you also write a paper. So I'm going to, hopefully we'll be able to download this. This might take a minute. Okay, I've clicked the wrong thing. Again, this is someone who's, again, if you select a topic of your own, that's great. You don't have to use one of the thought prompts, but do not stop. Do not write me a paper on drug and alcohol abuse. Do not write me a paper on bullying. Do not write me a paper on crime and violence. You've got to get specific. We're looking, sociology is a study of social processes that create larger inequalities. She picked a pretty dramatic one. So, she looked at human traffic, okay? And she talked about, let's go through the elements. She talked about culture. We live in a capitalist culture, okay? She talked about what fuels human trafficking, right? Okay. She talked about, then she went down and looked at social roles. We have social roles. A social role is a status, a behavior associated with a status. She looked at the trafficker and the victim. Okay. Notice she's building, those elements based on that first page of the topic, right? Right. That's what you need to do. Okay. And she talked about, why she expanded on these social roles. And she talked about social inequality, poverty, people from other countries, people who are runaways, vulnerable populations who have unequal access to resources as compared to other groups. She looked at social change, you know, and talked about, you know, the conditions exacerbate, you know, this, and how it goes, how it's invisible. Okay. You know, I mean, she said creating social change, you know, we need to change the demand for forced labor and sex trafficking, which are the reasons why, you know, it's a supply chain issue. She did really, this is like an A++ paper. And then, notice she did her references. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 references. Okay, so, there you have, let's go back now to your class here. There you have it, okay? That's what one has to do to be successful in this class, okay? We're about, you know,